As always, I appreciate you showing up. And whether you catch this live right now or in the rerun, I really want you to know that I so much appreciate you taking the time to do so. How is everybody out there? How's everybody doing? I hope you're good. Hope you're doing fine. Let's make our adjustments here. Yep. Yeah, that works. I'm a little crooked. Hey, greetings, welcome. Let me get my chat up here. Denro from the what I understand to be somewhat chilly state of Georgia right now. How you doing? I was just speaking to my Uncle Carlton. He says it's cold, but he's in Atlanta, so maybe a little bit of difference there. Yeah, it's freezing here. I have to say, honestly speaking, it's snowed for 2 days this last week. So much so that I could actually build little snowman on my deck. and it's been that cold and it just hasn't let up. And I live in a brick building, so you can imagine once that cold sets into the brick, this place can turn into an ice box. So yeah, I feel you there. Um, but other than that, it's one of those par for the course. It's not Singapore. I spent 5 years in Singapore, and I have to tell you, that's what I think I've referred to it before as the endless summer. I'll take the 4 seasons I get here any day of the week. Anthony, welcome. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. Welcome, welcome. Everybody's starting to dial in here. Frederick, welcome. How are you doing, sir? Good to see you in good health and here. Well, I guess you guys can tell from the title of this one that it's going to be another rip into Gibson tonight. And it's kind of par for the course. I don't do this too often, but I think this is a good one. So as you know, during the course of a week, I will sit down and think about the things that I am going to discuss on these live streams. And when I'm coming up with a script, I like to keep the topic, as fresh as possible. I don't want to get into old stuff. Frederick says it's stormy here tonight. Well, it's stormy here tonight as well. I was just talking about how cold it is. On top of that, it's pouring outside. And the wind is really blowing. Like I hear my deck furniture moving around. I'm not even going to worry about it. Hey, good evening, Mickey. Welcome. Welcome. But anyway, tonight's going to be an interesting one. As I said, Anthony says, I can't imagine I would be able to tell the difference between a regular Paul and a 20K one and a blindfold challenge, okay? Mickey Newman says, just driven 180 miles through the storm. Well, it's a good thing you were taking your time. You want to be careful when you're driving through storms. I'm glad you made it in one piece. Yeah, it's storming here. I'm not even thinking about going out. I had to go I have to take a trip to Frankfurt this week. Train trip, I've decided. And I had to go see if I could exchange a ticket today down at the central station, and I regretted that. Yes, sir, you made it. Please don't exceed speed limits to make it to the live anymore, though. Take your time. We'll be here waiting for you and appreciate you being here. But anyway, I was talking to my Uncle Carlton, and he said something yesterday. And he said, something interesting to me that I've heard before, but just hearing it from him, it really struck a chord with me. And it kind of, up until that moment, I kind of had a general path of where I wanted to go tonight, but this is the one that brought it all together. Because, I like to make these points, and even though some of them seem a little bit not related, I like to try to bring it all together again at the end. And this night will be no different. And he said to me, people expect music for free. Now, we've heard this before. People say this. as a result of streaming and a lot of other things that occurred, starting with Napster, if you're old enough to remember that. The idea of paying for music has not been in the public conscious for a while. They have to really dig you and really like what you're doing in order to, shameless plug, my albums on Spotify, Asanoki, Ants in the Pantry. If you really love me, go buy yourself a copy of that. But you gotta really love an artist in order to really pay money for them these days directly, because with streaming, you get handled through an agency that handles whatever fees you get from the streaming of your songs. And that agency takes a cut as well. My agency for mine is Bandcamp. I've been with them for over a decade now. And it really is what it is, but they do good accounting. Anthony, I appreciate that you said you love that album. I do too. It's my swan song. It's my last one that I'll be doing, I've decided. But I really try to put my foot in it and give you guys something that everybody will like. Dinro Gibson has got some new 1000 volume. Yeah, we're going to get into that tonight. We're going to get into that tonight. We're going to talk about Gibson tonight. You know, I wasn't going to let that one go by, Dinro. You know that, Mike, when the minute I read that, my eyebrows shot up so high I had a new hairline. But people expect music for free. Now, my Uncle Carl, just remind you guys, and for those of you who don't know, has been a professional musician. 8 decades this man has been around. A Hall of Famer. And he and his buddies are lamenting about the fact that there's no live music scene. And if there is one, Uncle Carlton said, he said, you got some jive bass player and keyboards. He said there's no guitar in any of it. And there's not a lot of guitar music. We've talked about this before. We've gotten into this before. There's not a lot of guitar music, really guitar-orientated music out there, really, in the public streams on the top 10, so to speak. Rick Beato makes a great case every now and then about the top 10 that's always amusing. And he points that out, you know. And if there is, it's a repeating 4-bar, 2-bar riff. So there's that. And it got me thinking, there's not a lot of guitar music like there was in the 80s or the 90s or up to the early 2000s when I was growing up. I grew up at the height. I hit teenagehood right at the height of hair band-aids. From Cinderella to, White Snake to who's that? Warrant, which was a local band out of my high school, University High School in LA. And, and of course, everybody else. And, of course, I orientated to guitar because I was inundated every day by great guitarists, fantastic bands. A lot of people gave them slag back then, but looking back, in retrospect, a lot of those bands were really great in their time. I love Motley Crue. Motley Crue, I've been a Motley Crue fan for a long time. I remember when I heard Dr. Feelgood and that chugging riff, that dun 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 dun, Mick Mars playing. I just really dug it, and I don't think there's a lot of that these days. I don't think the average teenager is going to turn on or plug in or slide their headphones in and listen to anything like that. As a matter of fact, I'll submit that the diversity in music these days is narrowing as a result. We knew that back in the 2000s, there was only 3 or 4 producers who were doing most of the stuff. Over in England in the 80s, yeah, Bananarama, Rick Ashley, Kylie Minogue, all those folks were under one house that was producing all the music for all that stuff, but that was just one little small pocket. It wasn't the whole doggone shooting match. And so there's that. But okay, Mike, where are you going with this? You know, we've heard this before. We know, you know, you're preaching to the choir again. Well, it came to my mind, these things. Of course, as I said, when Carl mentioned it to me. Also, however, I have to say that when I read the article about the $2,000 Gibsons, Les Pauls, you know, $20,000, I thought to myself, okay, interesting enough, $20,000. Who is this for? I mean, there is no, as I said, real growth that you're going to see in guitar players because, as I've just made the case for, there's not a lot of guitar music out there that would inspire some kid to want to pick up a guitar and start playing that, as opposed to a keyboard or drum machine or turntable. Hey, Ben, don't be sorry. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Welcome. Welcome, sir. We're just about to rip into Gibson here tonight. I'm getting warmed up. The pitcher is getting his arm warmed up. And as a result of that, when Gibson, who I have to say, you know, in terms of reading the market, these guys are have been so off the mark recently with Gibson and Epiphone is astounding to me. But who would be buying these $20,000 Gibsons? Now, amongst most dealers, if you talk to them, they'll tell you that the kind of thought process, and this even goes back as far as the Henry J era of Gibson, the kind of thought process from then going forward is we're going to squeeze out the middle class buyers from these. We're not so much interested in selling these to them. There are more ultra wealthy people out there who could buy, you know, 10 of these. Collector guitars. And so we want to focus more on that market, and that got handed over, that ideology from the Henry J iteration of Gibson to the current one. And so us being in that club, us not being in that club that George Carlin spoke of, it's a big club and you're not in it. When we read $20,000 Gibson Les Paul, we think to ourselves, well, that's nice, but you know, it's not going to happen for me. And I would say that's 9 out of that 10% of people who, you know, we've been through that before. I say the 10% of people who retain playing guitar after they initially bought one. 9 out of 10 of those folks, they're not going to be swinging like that. They're not. It's that 1% crowd that Gibson is swinging for themselves. Now, there have been similar items offered for half this price in the past. I seem to recall that the Brazilian Rosewood said, oh guys, guess what, man? Here comes the marketing team. Rolling out of the car like clowns and setting up their deck. Okay guys, check it out. We've got these guitars with authentic Brazilian rosewood that we've had sitting in the back corner for 50 years until we decided now to pull it out. And they were asking $9,000 for those. Now these $20,000 ones, I couldn't imagine how it could be, $11,000 better. I don't see how that could be. And so that's interesting to me. you know, again, like as I was pointing out, if you speak to most dealers, they will tell you that the ideology there really is to focus on the 1%. That's why the Gibson garage opened up. Fender's kind of swinging in that direction too with the shop they opened up in the Ginza area of Japan, Tokyo, Japan, uh, and aiming towards that 1%, and basically saying to everybody else, you know, well, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. And another thing that kind of came along around the same time of these $20,000 Gibson Les Pauls, as was just pointed out earlier, are the, now this is a long one. I'm going to read the title, what these things are called. Denro, those collector people really like to have the best of the best. Yeah, but I'm going to make a point here. I'm even going to say that even for those people, this may not be, Gibson may have read the room incorrectly again on this one. So let me get to that. But this is the title of the pickups that Gibson just released. These are the 1959 Humbucker Collector's Edition Series 1. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. That you, my friends, can have at the wonderful price of $999. It's all yours. And interesting thing, these are, as stated, it's a collector's edition. 1,000 sets were made. Apparently, they've sold out, at least on the Gibson website. It came with a case. It came with the hard case. Now, I don't know what exactly you plan on doing with that hard case after you've put the pickups into the guitar that you're playing on. I guess, but I'm positive that that's kind of an unnecessary thing. It's a nice thing. It's a beautiful case, but I don't know what it's for. You get a COA. And with the COA, you get kind of a description of what it is. Again, I don't see where there's any value. I guess I'm going through this looking for the value of these. Now, if indeed they sold 1,000 set of these, and if they are indeed sold out on these, then that means that they profited almost $1 million off the sale of these pickups. You know, $999 per set, 1,000 sets, you're at $999,000 basically. So hand wound by the marketing department. So there's that. And these things are apparently the bee's knees. I mean, this is the most scientifically accurate reproduction of a 1959 humbucker that we've ever created at Gibson. Oh, what was the custom bucker? What was the burst bucker 1, 2, and 3? Okay, you know, what was the 490 series? What were those? You know, and especially in the case of the custom buckers, because my God, I thought those things were expensive. And they are. They're $300-400, but these suckers right here, my goodness gracious, 1,000. Let's just round it up. Let's just call it what it is. It's $1,000. And so, you know, what's interesting to me is that with those going back to those to $20,000 Les Pauls, those just come with custom buckers. Those don't come with these new super limited edition, great, fantastic, you know, pickups thingamajiggies. They don't. They just come with, well, I wouldn't say just, but they come with custom buckers. Now, as we pointed out before, these $20,000 guitars are for collectors. Gibson is saying, okay, we want to aim for that 1%. Follow me, guys, if you will. So therefore, you know, this is a collector's market. It's at 1%. And the few rock musicians, you know, that, you know, who may end up getting one for free anyway, to be frank with you, if they, you know, if we so are inclined to do so, which they usually are. But they aim for a collector's market. And let me tell you something about the collector's market. I told you about Joe Bonamassa' famous quote where he said, every scratch on one of these 59s is going to cost you $1,000. Well, say you bought one of these $20,000 new Les Paul Super Edition, limited edition, you know, guitars, special limited edition guitars. And you said to yourself, hey, I want to have the best of the best. I'm the best. Isn't that what we just said? They want the best of the best. I want the best of the best. So I'm going to buy a set of those $1,000 guitar pickups to put in my $20,000 guitar. You know, the more I talk about these numbers, the more ridiculous it just sounds, and it is. Okay, fair enough, but the minute he cuts the leads on the custom buckers, he devalues that $20,000 guitar. I bet they do it too. Yeah, but the point is that, and so therefore, because he's modified it. You know, once you cut those leads, you know, you void the warranty, so to speak. Okay, and so you know, it's so then okay. I wouldn't want to buy one of the $20,000 guitars, and I know that if I swap the pickups in it, if I cut the leads, and that's going to devalue it because I've changed it. Okay, I know that. So maybe those aren't for me. So it gets back to who the hell are the pickups for? So I can't see myself spending $1,000 to put those in my Epiphone. Or who knows, at the prices Epiphone are going these days, maybe the $3,000 Epiphone will have those pickups in it. Dig that. You can't get them in the 20,000, but you can get a model, but you can get them in the Epiphone. Blind Bob, welcome, sir. Glad to see you doing well. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. We're doing fine, sir, and so glad to see you. So, okay, so we're back again. We're back to who the hell is any of this stuff? Well, okay, the guitar, best of the best, okay, but who are the pickups for in that line? You know, they've sold out, apparently. They either sold out or they withdrew them. I don't know. A lot of things I see sold out on the Gibson website. But quite frankly, my dealer down here always has one or two of them. So there's that. Were those in the 50K greenies? No, the 50K greenies had custom buckers. No, this is a separate little doohickey here. And I can think of other pickups. We all can. We can all. Anybody out there listening, watching right now, who knows, has a favorite humbucker. You could go down the list. Throwbacks, Wolf Tones are $200. Rewinds. You go to my guy in Croatia. I've got a set of his sitting right here for 200 euros. Matty Two Hats. I think even dudes with Lambos will pass on all this high-end trash. Okay. So yeah, and I skipped that here in my notes, but according to Zero Hedge. Let's walk out of the guitar market for a minute. Let's go into the luxury goods markets. Because, again, it's the 1% that these guys are aiming at. They've made that abundantly clear, and that seems to be the message for quite a while now. So how are the luxury good market performing? How good are those markets performing at the moment? According to Zero Hedge, they're not doing very well at all. As a matter of fact, the luxury watch um, arena is seeing steady declines in sales. People aren't buying them. They're not. And speaking of Lambos, the luxury cars as well. There's been a very precipitous decrease in homes that are valued over a certain, I think it was a 5 million or so. Those houses are declining in terms of their markets as well. People aren't buying things. Not just the secondary market on Reverb. That's not moving. I should have done it because I always joke about golf clubs, but I should have checked and seen what was going on in the golf club, sales arena. See how they're doing. Are they having a good year? Probably not. Probably not. So the 1%ers are tightening up their wallets. So again, who the hell are these for? Again, we've seen things priced what we thought was exorbitant, like the Veil of Bees guitar, the Epiphone, that as an initial strategy, marketing strategy, it seemed to strike a chord, but then it died off till now. They're into almost the end of that run coming up here. And the most anticipated one is the supposed last one, which is going to have no art on it at all. That's the one that everybody has in their to-do list in terms of buying. But the other ones aren't selling. And so, even in all markets, on all stratagems, the point of this is that the upper middle class or the ultra rich, they're tightening their purses. Certainly, the middle class is, and so again, it seems to me that Gibson has embarked on a course of brand alienation. Is what I'm going to call it. Brand alienation. They were built on the backs of working musicians, gig musicians, which, as I opened up again, tying things together, this is why I mentioned about there's no interest in live music in the beginning, because again, it was guys, pioneers like Michael Carlton and the guys that he worked with, which was just about everybody, who built up the brand to what it is. And it is the history of these guys that I pointed out before that Gibson is borrowing upon. They're like a vampire. The corpse is dead, but they're not vampires, but a dead corpse that they're electroshocking just to show people, hey, look, the toes are wiggling. Oh, the hand is jumping there. Look, see, it's still alive. But they're just coming out regurgitating the same crap in more improved and more expensive terms. And brand alienation is what it's leading to. So like I said, these guys, if they were card players, man, they'd be cleaned out. And so this, and what do you, and again, if you think that I'm just being, I'm exaggerating, is I will recall you back to not long ago, the infamous Gibson by Authentic. Okay, where our good friend Mark got on and basically shit on everybody. And Gibson took a lot of heat from that, and it created a brand alienation. And people really took offense to that. And it's been kind of forgotten and, and archived and hush hushed, and people don't really talk about it, but I recall it, and I'm sure you guys do too. It certainly at the time didn't make me feel good. I certainly don't. I certainly at that time and still do wonder of the mindset of the individuals who were responsible for putting that out at Gibson. I doubt any of those individuals have left, or if they have, good riddance. But the shades of that linger on, and so yeah, you know, brand alienation, $20,000 Les Pauls and $1,000 burst bucker. I always screw up on birth buckers. See, I've been doing good with that one for the last little while. Anyway, it's just funny to me, and I think that for us as consumers, we don't have to put up with it. Blind Bob says, Blind Bob, the bedroom guitarist says, guitarist. What? You got the guitarist in there twice. I never noticed that, Bob. Yeah, I was listening to the Q&A from Phil McKnight, and he said these aren't being sold as really for musical purposes. They're more or less for a memorabilia thing. Again, great, and I'm sure that is quite true. But again, reading the room incorrectly right now, luxury goods are on a decline, and I just don't see the one percenters who would buy this right now seeing this as something that's a necessity. You only do that when things are flush. When you got so much money that it's like the studios back in the 90s. They had so much. We were. I was an unpaid PA. I was still eating well. There was that much money around. I'll just put it that way. Supposed unpaid. But when things are flush, people will spend. When things are tight, they won't. And a $20,000 Gibson at this point does not seem like something that is a good buy if I were to put myself in the mindset of those people. James, welcome. How are you? So good that you made it. So good that you made it. Everybody's here, man. We got 19 people watching, 7 likes, man. Something wrong with the likes there. Hit that like button, guys. Hit those likes, hit those likes, hit those likes. Do it, Sophie. Do it for me. I can't really emphasize to you how much that makes a difference with the YouTube algorithm. So hit that like button. What else we have here? Dr. Powell, look what happened to TV industry. They used to be very expensive, but as competition increased, the prices dropped drastically. Well, yeah, again, in a parallel way, that's what happened with the music industry. Streaming came along, and the idea of CDs and albums just kind of went out the wayside. And the products got inferior. In both cases, there's pluses and minuses to everything. There's money out there. Yeah, there's money out there. Don't get me wrong. I told you a story about here down the street during Christmas time when somebody was delivering a yacht, and they had a big red ribbon on it and blocking traffic, delivering over. So somebody's out there got money, has the money to buy these. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that not as much as you would think. Matty Two Hats. Don't forget, Cesar is a finance bro. Yeah, he lives on a different planet. Well, I've said that before. Everybody said how great. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to knock, but yeah, we've said that before. But it seems like guitars are still expensive for no reason. Well, again, it's a value proposition for us guys, isn't it? We're looking for a good value proposition. We're looking for value. We're looking for, because we actually have to work for our money. and every dime and every dollar counts. And whether you're playing guitar for a hobby or doing professionally, or you're trying to set up a studio or whatever, you're looking for the best value. And so it's not, things aren't flush with us. We're not in the club. So they are expensive, absolutely, and they're getting into the ridiculous zone. However, there are still some good bargains out there to be had. You just have to be really savvy. You have the internet, but again, like I said, if I'm a dad or a mom and I'm buying my teenage son or daughter a guitar for the first time and I'm not really hip to it, I'll go to a YouTube channel and I'll do a little bit of research maybe. But unless you're really savvy these days, you know, you can get ripped on the low end and on the high end. You know, and that's a fact. The guitar Bob says the guitarist is in there twice because I used speech to text and it accidentally put it in twice and I couldn't take it out, so I just left it. I like it, man. I thought it was cool. I thought it was like a guitarist. You know what I mean? So I like it. We'll say that's what it is anyway. You're the guitarist. I last week, where are we at, by the way? What are you guys drinking out there? I'm drinking orange juice because I took that trip, as I've said, down to Central Station today. It was packed, and the tram was as well. And anytime I get on the tram that's full of tourists from, you know, God knows where, I always come home and dose myself with vitamin C because I'm not having it, especially with this weather being the way that it is. So that's what I'm drinking tonight. Fresh squeezed orange juice. Probably not the best thing this time of night for my stomach, but I'll let it go. All right, we're doing good. All said and done, Bob says, Mike, I'd be very surprised if the pickups in those guitars don't sell out quickly. Well, apparently the pickups has. The pickups apparently, as it's been stated, that they've sold out. And the guitars, not so much. But, you know, there's that. Benny, welcome. Better late than never, Benny. That's what I always say. It's better to be, you know, a little late than not at all. Yeah, we've just been ripping into Gibson, really, Benny, for the last half hour. Because we're all sitting around, you know, because we're not the group of people that they're marketing these $20,000 guitars and $1,000 pickups to. I'm not going to put a set of $1,000 pickups in my Epiphone. It's not going to happen. Why would I do that? And again, like I said, for half that price, you can get throwbacks. Hell, you know, I could think of a plethora. Midnight specials. Like I have a set of midnight specials in the Epiphone I gave my brother. You know, those were what, $200? I mean, I could think of so many other pickups. And if these are for, and how could the pickups be for collectors? What are you going to do? Put in a glass case and have special lighting, maybe laser beams, security at night on it? What are you going to walk through and put it in your museum and say, and these are limited edition custom guitar Gibson puckers? I mean, if you're not going to use them to put in a guitar, what the frack are you going to use them for? A paperweight? I bet some more around about 10 cents. Yeah, I bet you a lot of them, because they said to themselves they're going to try to scalp on them later on. But hell, if people aren't really buying them at $1,000, who's going to buy them at $2 or $3? And how the F will we know what they sound like unless somebody buys it, puts it in a guitar, and plays it for us? You know, how are we going to know what it sounds like? And even then, it's through compressed YouTube, you know, sound compression. So, you I could give you the guitars for a collector because, yeah, it's cool. You can hang it on the wall behind you. You could And they are works of art. If you get one with a beautiful flame top to it, okay, all right, I'll give you that. But the pickups, what, what? We use them as bookends or something, or what other purpose could you use those for other than what they were made to do, which is go in a guitar. It's just it's kind of a silly proposition, on the face of it. And so, brand alienation, almost moving into the point of us mocking them. Not even almost mocking. We're mockingly pointing out how ill they read the room, how they just can't do it. It doesn't surprise me. You know, Very little surprises me these days, actually, but it doesn't surprise me that it's come to this point. Because, again, there's only so many of those nine guys who are going to buy so many guitars. One will buy one and be happy with it, and then you'll have another one who will buy 50. But none of them are going to be. Even if that guy with 50 guitars, you could still sell his entire collection. It still wouldn't be worth his $20,000 Les Paul. It's the age-old question: is it better to have 10, inexpensive, nice guitars, or one really expensive one? It gets into that as well. At that price, Benny says, you're not just paying for tone. Oh no, you're paying for the marketing manager's son's private school lessons, his daughter's braces, his wife's boob job. Well, maybe that's for you, but maybe you get a write-off on that one. You're paying for a lot of things with that one, believe me. And none of them have to do with music. You can get great tone for a lot less. Yeah, dig that. Or you got the guys who just say, I'm good. I'm good. And so within that 90%, or those nine guys, there's a variation there, but the proposition of a $20,000 guitar is not one that appeals to them. At the most, they would say, okay, I can swing 4, 5, 6,000 for a used Gibson custom shop model, because you can get them for that, and call themselves really, blowing the bank. The greenies, have a little cachet to them, I guess. These models, not so much. So dig that, guys. Just dig that. Just a little bit of Gibson bashing there this week. Really kind of tone deaf. Real display of brand alienation. And as I was pointing out, that was based on the music of guys who were buying these instruments, the real deal ones, back in the day for $1,100, $1,200, and they were making music with them. And because there's been a decline in guitar, you would think that Gibson would be doing everything that they could do. They have. They started their own record label, I heard, and one of their first artists signed was Slash and his secondary band, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. I watched a few of their YouTube videos of them in the studio recording. Actually got a few tips from watching some of those recording tips from watching those videos. But you would think that they would be more interested in trying to move the message forward in the real music market out there, instead of just regurgitating different variations of the same crap. In other words, you would think that they would try to do everything that they could to try to encourage more guitar playing, more guitar music, doing things in order to try to push that narrative forward. And they're really not. That's not what they're pushing. They're pushing guitars for dentists, lawyers, accountants, you know. And so they're cutting their own throat in that regard, in my opinion. Again, whoever controls the market controls the narrative. That's why we were talking about the thing with Fender a few clicks back, trying to control the narrative. And Fender, you would think, would be trying to accomplish the same thing, but I don't see them moving in that direction either. It's like they've gone woke. Well, it was kind of a humorous thing in the beginning to say "go woke, go broke," but it sure did prove out to be quite auspicious, because it's true. If you if you do if you go woke, you will go broke. I don't know if there's any wokeness in either case. I think this is not a case of that. This is a case again of corporate greed. When it, when you boil it all the way down, that's really what it is. Mickey Newman drinking warm sarsaparilla. That sounds good. I used to, when I was a kid in California, there was a restaurant that I like to go to, and they had a choice between root beer and sarsaparilla. It was an old A&W. A&W Root Beer used to have their own little standalone restaurants, cafes. It's kind of like drive-in, kind of drive-up kind of thing. And I love sarsaparilla, but it's funny, I grew out of it. I had some recently, and it was a taste that I'm going to have to reacquire. But I used to love it as a kid. Um, Tommy Mack, welcome. Anthony Thornhill, not drinking anything I want to. I'm on call for work. Got you. Got you. I understand. Well, we'll wait for Miller time. Some point is going to show up, God willing. It's kind of Twilight Zone-ish last week. The theme that I got into, I read a couple of pages from Dave McGowan's book about Laurel Canyon, and it was an interesting topic. It showed you that there were a lot of machinations going on during that time in that particular geographic location. But upon listening to it, and I always listen to my live stream again, once again, just to critique myself, say, hey, you could do that a little better, you could do that a little bit better. But one thing that I don't want to come across as saying is there was anything wrong with the music of that period. As again, like I just said, you have Gibson doing their best to milk every dime out of that period of time, because they certainly can't do it out of this period of time that they can. The music of the Laurel Canyon groups, as I alluded to last week, was mostly done by the LA Wrecking Crew, the Wrecking Crew. And this was a group of musicians. They varied. There was a core group of them. And they played on just about everybody's records. They played on just about everything during that period. They were just knocking it out. They were just phenomenal. And so the music of that period is phenomenal. Was there a lot of dirt going on behind the scenes of it? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. In ways that if you were to read Dave McGowan's book, and I highly recommend that you get yourself a copy of it and do read it if it struck your fancy. But my gosh, I didn't even scratch the surface of how diabolical things were up there during that time in Laurel Canyon. Still are, in my opinion. Tommy Mack, I picked up an Epiphone Les Paul Standard 2021 for $300. Whoa, nice deal. Found it on Facebook Marketplace. I think retail it was $6.99, correct, $6.99. Used prices might be coming down even for really nice examples. I'd love to see the top on that. Let the fools play retail and let them sell forever. Well, yeah. Again, we've been talking about this for quite a while. We talked about that snowball effect, the avalanche, as I call it, and in the used market, where eventually, if something's not moving, things aren't selling, or priced to sell, and even in the cases where they're priced to sell, they may not move. But if you got the Pampers bill coming up, and you got this guitar over here, and you're like, I could use that 300 more than I could use the guitar, then you're gonna make that kind of deal because the pressure's on, and that is, again, it's just the nature of the beast. Yeah, again, you take advantage of it when you can. Yeah, it is, as I pointed out before, profiting on somebody's maybe misery in some cases, not in every one. But heck, that's the nature of the beast. And if you bought it at that price, you sure did learn yourself a lesson. You sure did learn something. And again, that points to, like I said, the savviness of just the common folk out there and whether they know what they're getting into when they buy something like that. But good deal. I would love to have one of those. If I could find one for $300, I would buy it. I said I wasn't interested in buying any Epiphones, and that's true. But a 2021 Epi Les Paul, yeah, I would definitely go for that, especially if it had a nice top. Because some of those really had nice tops to them. I'd like to see yours, Tommy. I'm sure it has a really nice one. But yeah, it was kind of Twilight Zone-ish, but I don't want to take anything away from the music that was being produced during that time. I think that certainly myself, it's ironic, it's funny to me. But I was born at the height of the Summer of Love. The height of Summer of Love was June of 1967. I was born on the 8th of June of 1967. So I was born in the Summer of Love. I'm a child of that. And of course, 10 years on, going into 1977, when I was 10, we were well into the so-called corporate rock era. And my older brother, who was 13, was listening to bands that were coming out like the Cars. And I was listening to the early iterations of what would be later known as New Wave. And even at the age of 10. But I was still being influenced by the music of 10 years prior. We were still watching, for example, the Beatles' Yellow Submarine animation movie. That would come on TV every now and then, and I would watch that. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times when I was a kid. So I was extremely familiar with the Beatles. I knew who they were. I had a good idea what their music was, even at the age of 10, maybe even before that. So that music of that era, I would say, shaped the direction that I went into artistically, certainly. And I can't discount that. So even though I know that there was some really diabolical things going on up there in Laurel Canyon, again pointing out the fact that 90% of the musicians that were part of that Laurel Canyon scene came from military intelligence backgrounds through their family members, their parents. Or They were the scions of the ultra wealthy, guys like David Cosby and not Mickey Dolenz, but Peter Nesmith from the Monkees. Those guys were they 24. He inherited $24 million. The guy from the Monkees. So at that time, so none of those people up there were again, as I said, the image that was sold to you, the nostalgia that was sold to you. They sell you on the nostalgia of that era of being the peace and love hippie thing, but that was a era that they were fully trying to control the narrative of the powers that be. And so even when we look back on it nostalgically, I wouldn't look at it in terms of anything other than just the music itself. If just putting on the record and digging that, the messages of the slogans, the nostalgia about the clothing, dropping LSD and hanging out in the park, all of that stuff has a basis in counter programming, and also just it has a basis in a manufactured story that the media will sell to you today when they talk about it. It's like those nauseating newscasters. Hey, you guys ever wonder about the 60s, time of tie-dyes and flowers in your hair? Well, we're going to go back, and that's how they started, because this is, again, regurgitating those myths of the time. But that's not really what it was. The hippie movement was not the same thing as the anti-war movement. Those were two separate entities. Yeah, they may have crossed into each other, but they were two separate things. The bands and the music of that time were somehow put into that mix in order to try to combine the two of those to make them the same thing in order to discredit them. Because the hippies, the Haight-Ashbury crowd, who were taking the acid that Owsley, I mentioned him briefly last week as well, who was producing this stuff for free, not for the money, but for free, and distributing it widely, were again part of creating a scene and creating a narrative, and the druggy, dirty hippie. That's what Woodstock is all about. And whenever you think about Woodstock, the first thing that pops in your mind is a bunch of muddy people. I mean, you'd have to go all the way back to caveman age to find that crowd of muddy people. But it creates images and messages and false narratives. So I thought about that, and I said, well, how do you, knowing that, how do you deal with that? Well, again, it's real simple. Just put on the records of that time. They may have been up to no good, but they really did put out some good records. Some stuff that I think, I don't think, I know, has stood the test of time. So much so, again, like I said, you have corporations still milking that aged corpse for as much as they can. So you have to look at it from that perspective. Top is really dark burst. Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like those dark burst ones. I was looking for the one like my 59 that I had. I really like that kind of, or also the stoner. I like that kind of top too. Dead and Company keeping it like, yeah, way dead. And in various ways, they're charging you $1,000 to keep it alive. But you just go to the music of that period, of that time. Even when I was prepping myself for that live stream last Sunday, I put on Dear Prudence, and I was listening to it. And I really just dig what they were doing musically, sonically. And all the other stuff that was going on outside of that really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Did the folks that were doing these machinations achieve their goals? Yes. Yes, absolutely. I talked to Uncle Carlton about it, and he said, "Hell, this stuff has been going on back in the times of Duke Ellington." He said, "So you know, nothing new is under the sun there." But yeah, they achieved their goals, but some good music came out of it. So you know, again, like I said, when you go down rabbit holes, I told you guys, don't go down rabbit holes. Be very, 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 very careful about the things that you ingest. Because they will burst many a bubble in your head of nostalgic notions that you may have had about things, and you will find out later that it just wasn't necessarily so. And I'm thinking about making that like a regular segment at the end of my live, as one of my segments in my live stream. Mike's Twilight Zone of music stuff. You know, talking about all the crazy things that I know, experienced directly or indirectly, about the dark side of the music industry. You know, and I might actually do that. I'm seriously considering that. You know, I am planning on doing my first midweek live stream this week coming up. So Wednesday this week coming up, not as late as this, not as 21 people watching and 12 likes. Something wrong with the math there, guys. Hit those likes. Come on, hit the likes for me. Do me that favor. I don't ask for much. But I do have to hit the like button. Um, yeah, I'm still debating the time. It will pop up in your feed, but I'm thinking probably this same time next Wednesday. This week coming up Wednesday, I'm going to do a Wednesday live stream. I'm thinking about increasing the amount of live streams that I do and decreasing the amount of normal content that I do, unless it's something particular that I want to discuss in that format. I do have some things that I do want to talk about coming up here, but that is going to probably be the way it will go going forward. We'll test it out. So this Wednesday, I will be doing a live stream. Yeah, let's just say same time, same bad time, same bad channel. Uh, Same time Wednesday. This coming up Wednesday, 11 p.m. Central European time. I will be doing a live stream. And maybe that midweek live stream, I'll dedicate more towards news orientated things. I want to talk about Gibson suing. Um, well, anyway, there's a couple of things that are happening out there that I want to talk about. So it may be an hour of news, a live news segment. I'm still working on what that format will be. Sunday at Mike's always has been just a kind of town hall meeting, a getting together of like-minded kind of folks, if you will, a community that we're trying to build here, and talk about the stuff that kind of interests us. It's funny, I'll start on the topic, and either one or two of you will say, "Well, hey, about what about these?" And that'll be the second topic, and I'll say, "Hey, thank you, good one on you for pointing that out." Um, Anthony, thank you so much for showing up, man. We'll see you next week. If you have time for Wednesday, take a look at it. God bless. But you'll point out and say, "Well, what about these?" Yeah, what about those? We're going to talk about that too. It happened tonight. So yeah, talk about like-minded folks. It's like we're in simpatico band, you guys and me. We're reading the room. We're seeing how this is. And it's quite a community that we're building here. And so that's what Sunday at Mike's is about. It's really about us shooting the breeze. Sometimes we'll talk about guitar. Sometimes we'll talk about the market. Sometimes, like tonight, we'll just roast Gibson. Sometimes we'll talk about, hell, ghost stories. We'll talk about road experiences. I'll tell you about the time that I watched a Michael Jackson impersonator choke an Elvis impersonator. Did I ever tell you guys that story? I thought about that one the other day. Michael Jackson impersonator Scorpio. He was over in Japan, and the Elvis impersonator said something, and I was in the front seat of the car, passenger seat, and I turned around and looked, and I saw Michael Jackson because they were still in full costume. But we'll talk about a lot of different stuff like that. And so that's what Sunday at Mike's. So Wednesday's show will probably be a more of what's going on news kind of thing. We'll see. We'll try the format out. Tommy says, did you ever think of having the regulars join you on stream to show off their collections? Yeah, I would love that. They have a feature here called Join In or live stream simultaneously, whatever it is. And there's a couple of applications of things that I like to do there. I would like to do something with 3 Chord Dave, where the two of us get together and just talk about a subject, or even invite in somebody else and maybe have a panel discussion, a live stream panel discussion about something. I would love to get together with those other creators and do something like that. I've been talking about that for a while. And not just that, but for you guys to be able to jump in as well. So yeah, I'm hip to that. I like to see what everyone has. Yeah, I'd like to see that as well. So there's that stuff that I'd like to do. I really should reach out to 3 Chord Dave and see what he thinks about it. And this year is the year that I promised to do that. And yeah, it would be, and just, I'd like to have a panel discussion. You see that with the Star Wars, the geek guys, the Star Wars and the Star Trek and, the movie guys, like WDW Pro, where they'll talk about Disney stuff. They've got a system where they got a lot of content creators, and once a week, even though these guys have their own channels, they'll all get together and do a panel thing where they'll talk about a topic. And it's interesting because they're all from, you got a brother from Detroit, you've got a guy from Ireland, you've got a guy from the UK, you got a guy from South America, you got a girl from South America. You got all these different points of view on things. And they may not all be in agreement, that may actually, but when they are, then they start ripping, it's a good course to go. So I've always wanted to see something like that happen in the YouTube music space. Nobody's doing that I know of. There's some guys that are doing a kind of thing, but they're both in the same room at the same time. But the panel thing is something that I'd like to try. 3 Chord Dave. There you are. I'm in. Sounds like an awesome idea. All right, let's talk about this, man. I'll go over to your channel and see what your contact information is and shoot you off email. Let's do it, man. I didn't know you were here. But I would love to do that with you, sir. I think it's a great thing. And then I'd like to build on that. Again, like I said, I think that if you have as many different opinions on a subject, different points of view, shining lights on it, there's no way that they can get away from, the rats can't scurry off into the darkness. We got too many lights on it. So I'll contact you. That's great. That's awesome. So, I think that we're building a community here, but it's not a singular community I have in mind. I have the greater community in mind, and I'd like to see something built from that. So just my thoughts, but it's good to see that me and Dave are in sabbatical with that idea, with that concept. So guys, look forward to that. That's something we're going to do, guaranteed. Well, I am going to call this one short, guys. I know I usually make them a little bit longer, but I actually have to get up and do some work in the morning. Doggone it. I actually have to work for a change. So I can add to my savings account so I can afford to buy that 20,000 Gibson. But I've got to get the $1,000 pickup, so I need 21. So I got to get to work. So I'm going to call it short tonight. You know, I really, on a personal level, I really like in my free time to watch movies. And I have been watching quite a few movies this weekend because I kind of want to stay in with the weather being what it was. And I watched the Led Zeppelin concert movie from back in the day, just to close this out. And again, you know, I am saddened by the fact that in the commercial market, there's not that kind of event. There's not that kind of thing anymore. That thing doesn't exist. And it was a good thing that really should still exist, but it doesn't. But I'm encouraged by YouTube. I'm encouraged by, again, the content creators that are out there doing it. They're shining lights on subjects that need to be illuminated. They're introducing people to artists and to individuals that without this, it wouldn't happen. So I want to thank you guys for helping me build this community here, step by step, inch by inch. You know, the content is on this channel is a mile wide, but it's an inch deep. But it is entertaining and it is consistent, and I thank you guys for rewarding that consistency with showing up all the time. Mickey Newman says, just book tickets to go see Robert Plant in March. Yo, man, that's great. I am a big Robert Plant fan from a vocal standpoint. Again, you know, but again, I look at guys like Robert Plant to be in the same kind of genre of a guy like Ted Neely. If you guys don't know who Ted Neely is a guy who played Jesus in the movie version of Jesus Christ Superstar. That guy's got a voice. I heard him sing here in Amsterdam live. They do every Easter that he was doing a show here. And even at his age, in the 70s, he could still blow. And Plant is in the same kind of league, the same kind of vocal genre area as that, and I dig them both. So I envy that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Again, I thank you for taking the time to watch this if you are watching live right now. If you catch this in the rerun, please please take the time to write a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit the like button, and thank you for showing up. You guys take care. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.